Hi y'all. Given the recent controversy of Sydney Sweeney and the blue jeans, I thought that it would be a good time to discuss a brief history of eugenics in the United States. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the ad itself. I'll let other people talk about that. And I don't like Sydney Sweeney. I never have. I think she is fake and pick me. I've just never been a fan, so I have an inherent bias there, so I'm just not going to talk about the ad. Plus, the ad is, I think, just, rage bait. So when many people think of eugenics, they think of Nazi Germany. But what most people don't realize is that Nazi Germany actually took inspiration from the United States, from the forced sterilization and eugenics programs that we had and the Jim Crow laws that we had in the United States. And when I say sterilization, this is, vasectomies, hysterectomies, the removal of fallopian tubes, the removal of ovaries, and even full-on castration. And this was done to minors, to 13, 14, 15-year-olds. We targeted people that we considered unworthy of life, which included people with disabilities, people who were dissident, idle, homosexual, and weak. So while the state of Pennsylvania never actually passed a eugenics law, they still managed to sterilize about 270 people anyway, and they performed the first known eugenics-motivated castration in 1889. But the first state to enact eugenics-based sterilization law was Indiana in 1907, followed by 2 years later by Washington and California. Eventually, 33 states would pass such legislation. And internationally, the list of countries with a history of forced sterilization includes Canada, Czechoslovakia, and the Czech Republic, Denmark, Japan, Iceland, India, Finland, Estonia, China, Peru, Russia, Sweden, Switzerland, and Uzbekistan. And though the state of North Carolina, where I live, did not sterilize the greatest number of people, that distinction belongs to California, where 20,000 people were sterilized. The state's eugenics board was notorious for its aggressiveness. While many states confined their sterilization programs to institutions to make these decisions, North Carolina allowed social workers to make recommendations based on observations of unwholesomeness, home environments, and poor school performance. The state's program was also the longest lasting, increasing the number of its sterilizations while the others were winding down. Between 1929 and 1974, more than 7,600 North Carolinians were sterilized. Many of the victims were actually children, where the consent was provided by relatives or guardians who feared loss of public assistance or other consequences if they refused. And many of those were done under coercion. They were signing papers that they didn't understand because a lot of the people that were sterilized were illiterate. Some 60,000 American citizens were sterilized, often under coercion or without consent. They used IQ tests to target people as feeble-minded. And in North Carolina in particular, they didn't just target people, that were disabled or feeble-minded. They also targeted Black women, particularly poor, illiterate Black women. One Black woman in particular, she was sterilized as a minor, and she, after the surgery, experienced frequent hemorrhaging, and her period lengthened to 17 days a month. And she didn't even learn about her own sterilization until she was 19 years old, when she began to wonder why her and her husband could not conceive a child. Her illiterate grandmother, she discovered, had consented by signing just a simple X to complete her sterilization. So, I mean, this isn't new, especially in the United States. Like, this stuff isn't taught in K through 12. This stuff is taught in college, which is, I think, a reason why Republicans and maybe corporate established Democrats target higher education institutions, because they don't want people to know about the history. Because if you don't know the history, then you won't understand that you're repeating it, right? You'll think this never happened before. It happened. It happened here already, and they're trying to make it happen again. And to say that they're trying to make it happen again is hyperbolic. You're underreacting here. I mean, we already saw in 2018, I believe, forced sterilization of immigrant women in detention centers. Like, this is not a new thing. They're just trying to normalize it. Link to the source in the comments.